ladies and gentlemen. We're actually going live today. We're not pre-recorded. It's time for our daily lectionary readings for Monday, November 15th. Today we've got Psalm 3. And being it's the first day, we're going to do it in the NRSV, our Pew Bible here at First Baptist. Then we've got 1 Samuel 3:19 to 4:2, and then Hebrews 10:26 to 31. All right, so let's just dive right in head first. All right, Psalm 3 is Trust in God Under Adversity, and they've got a little subtitle. It's attributed as a Psalm of David. It's attributed to David when he fled from his son Absalom. When Absalom led the rebellion against David and David was on the run. That's where this psalm, which is a hymn, comes from. O Lord, how many are my foes? Many are rising against me. Many are saying to me, there is no help for you in God. But you, O Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, and the one who lifts up my head. I cry aloud to the Lord, and he answers me from his holy hill. I lie down and sleep. I wake again, for the Lord sustains me. I am not afraid of 10,000s of people who have set themselves against me all around. Rise up, O Lord, deliver me, O God, for you strike all my enemies on the cheek. You break the teeth of the wicked. Deliverance belongs to the Lord. May your blessings be on the people. Very nice. 1 Samuel 3:19 to 4:2. Couple things going on here, guys, that I don't quite get. We are in, if you look on the Vanderbilt site that I use for the lectionary, I know on there, that's the one I use. It's got a semi-continuous strand or a thematic strand, and we typically do the semi-continuous, where it'll work its way through biblical stories or eras, particularly with the Old Testament. But every once in a while, they'll just have a section and then they'll stop. And today it's really weird. We've got a section, and then we're not going to be back in Samuel for a while. Real quick, let me take a... well, at least not between now and Thanksgiving, we're not. Oh, we have one day. We're going to be in Samuel 15. So you'll see as we read this section, it's odd that this is where they broke it, and then we're not going to come back to it. Because when we come back to Samuel here in a couple of weeks, there's like one passage in Samuel between now and Thanksgiving, and it's in chapter 17, and we're in chapter 3. I don't know. I don't understand the logic, but it is what it is, I guess. I should quit grumbling, right, and just get to it. 1 Samuel 3:19 to 4:2. As Samuel grew up, the Lord was with him, and let none of his words fall to the ground. I love that expression. That meant people really listened to him. They paid attention to him. They shemad him. I love that. None of his words fell to the ground. I wish none of mine fell to the ground. And all Israel from Dan to Beersheba knew that Samuel was a trustworthy prophet of the Lord. And the Lord continued to appear at Shiloh, for the Lord revealed himself to Samuel at Shiloh by the word of the Lord. And the word of Samuel came to all Israel. By the way, did you notice the chapter break right there? This is why I warn you about chapter and verse breaks so often. Because they're artificially imposed, one. Chapter breaks were... Try to remember my history here. Chapter breaks were put in... I'm thinking 700-800 years after Christ, off the top of my head. But verse breaks were even later. They weren't completely done until the 15th century, until the 1600s. or 16th century, the 1500s. That's when we really have all of our chapter and verse breaks. So that's not the way they were written. In this case, chapter 4, the last verse in 21, the Lord continued to appear at Shiloh, for the Lord revealed himself to Samuel at Shiloh by the word of, and the chapter ends there. Chapter 4 starts with the Lord, period, and the word of Samuel came to Israel. It's the Hebrew grammar and Greek grammar is one reason it's broken, but I don't know why they break it the way they did. In those days, the Philistines mustered for war against Israel, and Israel went out to battle against them. They encamped at Ebenezer, and the Philistines encamped at Aphek. And the Philistines drew up in line against Israel. And when the battle was joined, Israel was defeated by the Philistines, who killed about 4,000 men on the field of battle. And that's where our passage stops. And then we're not going to come back. I don't get it. I don't know why they bothered to include the part about the ark being captured if we're not going to come back to it. We're not going to continue the story. It's just odd. But yes, the ark was captured. They did get it back. It's a really cool story. Involves gold representations of tumors. I'm sure we'll get to it at some point. All right, Hebrews 10:26-31. For if we willfully persist in sin after having received the knowledge of the truth, there no longer remains a sacrifice for sins, but a fearful prospect of judgment and a fury of fire that will consume the adversaries. Anyone who has violated the law of Moses dies without mercy on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. That's a quote. That's not me being sarcastic. That's an actual quote. How much worse punishment do you think will be deserved by those who have spurned the word of God, profaned the blood of the covenant by which they were sanctified, and outraged the Spirit of grace? For we know the one who said, "Vengeance is mine, I will repay," and again the Lord will judge his people. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. I'm going to leave that alone. That is kind of a hellfire and brimstone little section there. It should be I think sometimes we overcorrect. And yes, we look at God as our Father and our loving Father. But and we use the word awesome. Our God is an awesome God. I just lost the guy's name who sang that song. Our God is an awesome God. Who was that? Anyway, he's dead. Anyway, we use the word awesome a lot now, especially in contemporary Christian music circles, it seems. But we've left part of that out. Awe is also has a fear component. And when we have disobeyed God, there should be some fear there. Do you remember when you were a kid? And even if you had a great relationship with your father, or pick a parent, doesn't necessarily have to be your father, but the God our Father brings that to mind. When you know you had done something wrong, that you had gone against your father's wishes, no matter how well you got along, there was an element of fear there. The dad's got to find out I messed up, and he's going to be angry at me. He's going to be disappointed in me. So there should be some of that there. Now, the church I grew up in was unfortunately, I think, swung the other way, and it was all fear. So I think that we need to find that healthy balance, that God is love, but if we're not in his will, if we are disobeying God, there needs to be some fear. There needs that reverence includes some of that aspect. I know that seems odd. You hear me talking about love and grace a lot, and God gives us love and grace, but we should be afraid of disappointing God. We should be afraid of how He's going to look at us if we don't do what He asks us to do. And that's what I got for you today, guys. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.